here's where we are. We're in a situation right now where if you juxtapose the concerns of the Steelers, and let's be clear, the concerns of the Steelers in 2018 are the same concerns they had in 2017, the same concerns they had in 1979, and that's winning football games, right? Le'Veon also has a business concern. That's the balance of his career. Now, and how it should happen is that each of those concerns, right, should serve as the impetus for the two sides to find a middle ground and get a long-term deal. That did not happen in this contest.
So how do you preserve Adisa Le'Veon's long-term concerns with your approach right now?
Look, there's nothing really to presume. We know this. Le'Veon has several years ahead of him in football. We know right now his days in Pittsburgh are precarious at best. We also know how he's been utilized in the past by the Steelers organization. And again, that's nothing to say negative about the Steelers. They have one of the best players who have ever played this position, and they rely on him heavily for the production that he can provide. But in doing so, you take away from his future years. Now, look, every player, because of what I said at the outset about programming to be team first and to focus first on the collective, every player is built that way, right? And so it's only when that player gets to take care of his personal concerns that he can then revert to the collective, right? And to join and to be focused on wins for the team, wins for the group, right? But when we find ourselves in a situation like this, right, when the player is forced now to think less of the group and to think more about his individual long-term success, again, we find ourselves where we are. So as his future goes, I think his future remains bright. I don't think there's much selling Le'Veon has to do as with regard to his talent on the field. I think anybody who's watched this young man play since his rookie year realizes that he's a special talent. He's not an ordinary player. He's not a run-of-the-mill player at the position. He's a once-in-a-generation player. I said last time I was on your airwaves that he's a multifaceted, a multi-purpose player. And I think 31 other teams might view him similarly when we get to free agency next year.
Adisa, I agree, but I would ask you this. Sometimes it's best just to keep it simple. Will we see Le'Veon Bell week 1? And if not, then when?
Well, look, I think Mike Tomlin said it best yesterday. Le'Veon, when he shows up, that's when he shows up, right? So I didn't come on to tell you when this was going to end and when it's showing up. Look, that'll happen when it happens. What I am saying is this. The takeaways from this, quite frankly, situation are a couple, if you'll indulge me. One, we know the franchise tag does not work. The franchise tag has a strategy to sign players who are elite-level players that we have, quite frankly, outseen the efficacy of the franchise tag. It is a recipe for disaster. When you have targeted a player on your roster who's an elite-level player, you sign him and you sign him early. That is in the interest of everybody, the team included. That wasn't done in this case. Right? And if you think about that, Teddy, having been in the situation, you can appreciate this more than others. If you don't sign that player early, a la in the current CBA after 3 years, then unintentionally, as an organization, you're betting on what? That somehow his talent will diminish, because it's only the diminishing of his talent that will result in his market value going down. But if a player is a special player and he's entering the prime of his years, It's a safe bet that each year you pass on doing a long-term deal, he's going to get better. And therefore better. And consequently, the value that he's going to command is going to do what? Increase.
That's right. So Adisa, take me through what Le'Veon Bell's going through right now in terms of his mental struggle, in terms of wanting to be there for his team, wanting to play for the Pittsburgh Steelers, wanting to do what's best for himself and the family, and also wanting to have a contract that sets up for running backs in the future. All of these sort of responsibilities that he's thinking about, how is he dealing with that struggle mentally?
Teddy, that's everything. I mean, in a nutshell, you just surmised everything that's going on through his mind. So listen, Le'Veon Bell is one of the most intelligent young players in this league. From the very beginning, we explained to him that our job is to help him make informed business decisions. So look, don't have a conversation with Le'Veon and expect him to forget what you say, because everything you tell him, he's going to remember it and be able to regurgitate it to you years later. He understands the business concerns and consequences of the decisions he's made. As far as his mental makeup, he want nothing more than to join his teammates and go about the mission of winning a Super Bowl in Pittsburgh. But then there's the business reality that he's forced to contend with. And it's a difficult decision to make, but on balance, right, it's the right decision to make. And so he's struggling. He would love to be in the black and yellow getting ready for week 1, but he's not. when he decides to report, he'll be there, and he'll give everything he has once he shows up.
Adisa, is there any communication at this point between team and player or with his representation? Are the lines of communication open?
Always have been, yes.
One last question before we let you go, and I know you've said he'll report when he's report, but is he willing to take this all the way to miss the season and make this stand, Adisa?
Again, this is less of a stand, as it quite frankly speaks more to what's to come in the future. He's going to do the things necessary to protect his value long term. Right? He is now forced. And look, there's a reason why we see other players on the franchise tag not having signed their deals. There's a reason why we see Earl Thomas, and I don't know what his situation is, but there's a reason why these players are taking the stances that they're taking. It's unfortunate. Most players, to a man, would have as their ultimate goal pursuing a championship for the team on which they are playing. But sometimes the economics and the business of the NFL forces the player to be that, quote, independent contractor that Teddy referred to earlier. And this is just simply one of those occasions. It is incumbent upon the team and the player's agent, quite frankly, to ensure that we don't reach that point. But we've discussed ad nauseum as to why things are challenging with regard to negotiating these past several weeks, or back in July, and how the franchise tag impacted that negotiation, and how the way in which the Steelers have historically done their deals and how that impacted the negotiations. So those business realities, quite frankly, have led us to where we are today.